Welcome back. Hope you all are fine. Today we will have a revision of the third chapter, Elements of Weather and Climate. We have already studied that weather is the atmospheric condition that exists over a small area for a short period of time. On the other hand, climate is an atmospheric condition that existed over a large area for a longer period of time. Weather changes day to day and place to place, whereas climate does not change so frequently. It may change after 25-30 years. The weather of Indore and Ujjain may be different, but the climate of Indore and Ujjain is same. Both are extreme type of climate. During summer season, both Indore and Ujjain experiences extreme heat, and during winter both places experience extreme cold. Such a climate is called extreme climate. On the other hand, weather, now it may be raining in Indore and it may be cloudy in Ujjain. The weather changes. The morning weather may not be the weather of afternoon. In the morning it might be raining and in the afternoon it might be cloudy. The weather changes from place to place and it changes from time to time, whereas climate does not change so frequently. It remains there for a longer period of time. Now let us see what all are the elements that affect weather and temperature, atmospheric pressure, humidity, prevailing winds, sunshine, clouds and precipitation. These are the elements that affect weather and climate of an area. You know, atmospheric pressure is a factor that determines the weather of an area. Atmospheric pressure is the pressure that is exerted by a column of air. The places which are close to the seashore will have high atmospheric pressure, whereas on the mountain top the air is very thin due to the high altitude, and there it is, the pressure also is very less. Then this atmospheric pressure is a factor that decides the weather of an area. Temperature is another factor. The places which are close to equator experience high temperature, and the places which are lying far away from the equator experience low temperature. Thus, temperature is a factor that determines the climate as well as weather. Temperature may be vary from place to place, or season to season, or proximity to ocean and altitude. The areas which are lying closer to the equator experiences high temperature. We have seen. Similarly, the places that are lying in a high altitude, such as mountain ranges or hilly areas, experiences low temperature. If the place is lying closer to the sea, still the temperature will be lesser. So these all factors affect the temperature of an area. Humidity is another important factor that determines the weather. The amount of water vapor present in the atmosphere is called humidity. Humidity is of two types: absolute humidity and relative humidity. Absolute humidity is the actual amount of water vapor present in the atmosphere at a given temperature. That is measured in grams per cubic meter. On the other hand, relative humidity is the ratio between the actual amount of water vapor present in the air and the total amount of water vapor that the air can hold at a specific temperature. This ratio is called as relative humidity. Relative humidity is expressed in percentage. Thus, absolute humidity and relative humidity are two types of humidity. Absolute humidity is expressed in grams per square cubic meter, whereas relative humidity is expressed in percentage. The amount of water vapor present in the atmosphere is called as humidity. Precipitation is another important factor that affects the weather and climate. The falling of water in any form is called as precipitation. Rainfall is the most common form of precipitation. Rainfall, snow, sleet, hail and drizzle are the different forms of precipitation. Of these various forms, rainfall is the most common form of precipitation. Sunshine is the next factor that decides the weather and climate of an area. Sunshine is determined by various factors: season of the year, then altitude of a place, as well as cloud cover are the factors that affect the sunshine. In summer, the area gets more sunlight, whereas in winter, the same place gets less sunlight. Thus, season of the year is a factor that determines the amount of sunshine. Similarly, the areas that lies close to the equator gets more sunlight, whereas the areas that lies far away from the equator or the polar regions receive less amount of sunlight. The same way, if there are clouds on the sky, the amount of sunshine also will be reduced. So these all are the factors that determines the amount of sunshine that an area receives. Prevailing winds is another factor. We know the movement of air from one place to another is called as wind. Wind always moves from a high pressure area to a low pressure area. The horizontal movement of air is called a wind. When an area gets sunlight, the air heats, and the hot air is lighter, and as a result it rises up. When the air rises up, naturally there creates an area of low pressure, and from the nearby high pressure area where the air is cool, it began to flow to the area where the air is risen up and a low pressure area is created. That flow of air is called as wind. Wind blows from a cold region to a hot region, helps to bring down the temperature. Similarly, the wind blows from a hot region to a cold region, helps to increase the temperature. The winds which blow from desert helps to increase the temperature. Similarly, the wind that blows from the polar region helps to bring down the temperature. That's what I told. The area of its origin decides the temperature. If it is blowing from a hot area, the wind will increase the temperature. If it is blowing from a cold area, it will decrease the temperature. Clouds is another factor that decides the weather. If there are clouds on the sky, the amount of sunlight will be very less. If the sunlight is very less, the temperature may be less. So the cloud cover can play an important role in determining the weather of a place. When the water vapor condenses on the dust particles, clouds are formed. There are different types of clouds we can find on the sky. All those clouds do not cause any precipitation. Only some types of clouds causes precipitation. But all the clouds contain water vapor in a condensed form. The important types of clouds that we can find on the sky are cirrus clouds, cumulus clouds, stratus clouds and nimbus clouds. Of these different types of clouds, only cumulus and nimbus clouds are able to bring rainfall. The cirrus clouds and stratus clouds generally do not cause any rain. Let us see the instruments that are used to measure these various weather elements. Temperature is an element of weather. It is measured by using thermometer. There are two types of thermometer. The normal thermometer that measure the temperature and which measure the maximum temperature of the day as well as the minimum temperature of the day. It is called a 6 minimum and maximum temperature thermometer. So thermometer is the instrument that is used to measure the temperature. Then we have learned that humidity is an element. The amount of humidity is measured by hygrometer. Hygrometer is also known as wet and dry bulb thermometer. Hygrometer is used to measure the amount of humidity or amount of water vapor present in the atmosphere. Then the atmospheric pressure is determined by barometer. There are two types of barometer: mercury barometer and aneroid barometer. Mercury barometer is a long tube that contains mercury, and aneroid barometer does not contain any mercury. Mercury barometer is difficult to carry, whereas aneroid barometer is very easy to carry. Both used to measure atmospheric pressure. Rainfall is measured by rain gauge. The amount of rainwater collected in the rain gauge is measured in a measuring jar, and by determining the height of the water collected in the jar, the amount of rainfall is calculated. Rain gauge is a very simple instrument which is used to calculate the amount of rainfall. The continuous rainfall is calculated by a little more complicated instrument called a pluviogram. The amount of sunshine is calculated by sunshine recorder. It is a glass ball, and the sun rays that passes through the glass ball concentrated on a paper strip, and it causes burning on the paper strip. By analyzing the places and the area of burning on the paper strip, it is possible to identify the duration of sunlight. So sunshine recorder is the instrument that is used to find out the amount of sunlight. Wind is another important element of weather and climate. The speed of wind is determined by anemometer. Anemometer is the instrument which is used to find out the speed of the wind, whereas the direction of the wind, from where the wind is blowing, is determined by wind vane or weathercock. The continuous recording of wind is determined by anemograph. Anemometer is used to find the speed of the wind, whereas anemograph is used to record the continuous wind. There are two terms which are related to weather and climate. They are isotherms and isohates. Isotherms are the lines that joins two places of equal temperature. The places, two cities that has experiences equal temperature are joined by a line, and that line is called a isotherm. On the other hand, isohates are the lines that connects two places that receive equal amount of rainfall. The places that receive equal amount of temperature is connected by isotherms, whereas the places that receive equal amount of rainfall is connected by isohates. These points are clear to you. If you have any doubt, you are free to contact me through the CSoft app. It is enough for today. Take care.